I still remember the last time I saw my parents' eyes filled with hope. It was the day I told them I wanted to marry Alex. My mother, Carol, sat in the living room, nervously clasping her hands, and my father, Richard, stood silent near the window, staring out like the weight of the world was crushing his chest. I was too young to understand that kind of silence. I mistook it for stubbornness, for old-fashioned thinking. But now I know, now I live with the consequences of ignoring that silence, of pushing away the people who loved me more than anyone else ever could. They begged me not to go. My mother cried, her voice trembling as she tried to explain something she couldn't even bring herself to say aloud. "Mia," she said, "Alex is not who you think he is. We know things about him that you don't. Please don't do this. Please trust us." But I didn't listen. I was 23, freshly graduated, full of dreams and sure I had found the love of my life. Alex was charming. He had a smile that made my heart skip. He told me everything I wanted to hear, painted pictures of a future filled with happiness, and whispered promises of a life we would build together. I believed every word. I believed him over the parents who had raised me, loved me, and sacrificed everything for me. I didn't just leave them, I ran away, signed my name next to his in a courthouse with no family present, no blessings, and no understanding of what marriage really meant. For 2 months, I lived in a daydream. Alex was sweet at first, attentive, even passionate. We had a tiny apartment on the edge of town, barely enough to fit a bed and a couch, but I thought it was our little world. We had each other, I thought, and that was enough. But the mask started slipping faster than I ever expected. The late nights started, and so did the lies. He said he was working, but the paychecks didn't match. Then the drinking came, and the anger, not loud or violent at first, but cold and cutting. He started blaming me for everything. For not earning enough. For being too emotional. For not making dinner right. For just existing. One morning, I woke up to find him gone. No note, no message, no goodbye. Just an empty closet and silence. I waited, called, texted, even went to his mother's house, but she looked at me with a mix of pity and resentment. "I warned your parents," she said quietly before closing the door. It was over. 2 months. That's all it took to shatter my life. I had no job, no home of my own, and no one to turn to. My pride was too big to call my parents. I was too ashamed to face them. So I did what I had to. I found work at a small shop in the city, selling souvenirs and serving coffee. The pay was low, but it kept me afloat. Then came the news I didn't expect. I was pregnant. I stared at the test in disbelief, sitting on the floor of that tiny bathroom in the apartment I could barely afford. I didn't know whether to cry or laugh. I just sat there, numb. The father of my child had abandoned me, and I was alone. Terribly alone. I thought about calling my parents so many times, but every time my finger hovered over the call button, shame pulled it away. I imagined their disappointment, their heartbreak. I had thrown away their love for a man who didn't even stay. How could I ever look them in the eye? 9 months passed slowly. I worked until I could barely stand, saving every penny. I moved into a 1-bedroom apartment above the shop. It wasn't much, but it had warmth and a roof. And when I gave birth to my daughter, I named her Hope, because she was the only thing I had left. Hope gave me strength. She was a tiny bundle of love, innocence, and everything good I didn't deserve. I remember watching her sleep, her little chest rising and falling, and wondering how something so pure could come from such a broken place. I promised her I would be enough, even if I was all she had. Years passed. I didn't date, didn't make friends. I poured everything into Hope. I walked her to school every morning before work and picked her up every evening. We ate dinner together, read bedtime stories, and watched the stars from our small balcony. She grew fast, too fast. Her laughter filled the silence that used to crush me, but at night, when she slept, the loneliness crept back in. I still didn't call my parents. Pride is a heavy burden when regret already sits on your shoulders. 6 years later, I still work at that same shop. The owner, Grace, is kind and older, like the mother I left behind. Sometimes she watches hope for me when I have double shifts. People come and go, tourists mostly, and none of them know my story. I smile, I chat, and I sell magnets and mugs like my heart isn't hollow. And sometimes, I sit in my tiny kitchen late at night, staring at old photos I never had the courage to delete. Pictures of my parents, of the home I ran from. I remember the way my dad used to make pancakes every Sunday, and how my mom would hum old songs while folding laundry. I remember the way they held me when I cried over stupid things and how their eyes sparkled with pride when I got my diploma. I threw that all away for a man who disappeared in 2 months. I've written a letter to them 100 times. Apologizing. Begging for forgiveness. But I never send it. I don't know if they've moved. I don't even know if they're still alive. That's what regret does. It traps you in the past and robs you of the courage to seek redemption. Hope asks about her grandparents sometimes. She sees other kids with theirs and wonders why she doesn't have any. I tell her it's complicated. That's all I can say. I'm not ready to tell her the whole truth, that I chose a man over my family, and that I lost everything because of it. This story isn't just mine. It's a story for every girl who thinks love means abandoning the people who raised her. It's a story for every child who forgets that parents see what we can't, who know the world in ways we don't understand until it's too late. If I could go back, I would sit with my mother on that couch and ask her what she knew about Alex. I would listen, truly listen, to her fears, to her reasons. I would hold my dad's hand and let him speak, even if the truth hurt. Because no man, no matter how charming, is worth more than the love of a parent who's spent a lifetime protecting you. I live alone now, with hope as my only light. And though I try to be everything she needs, I know the truth, I'm still a daughter who never got to say she was sorry. And the pain of that silence is louder than any scream. So if you're listening, if you're watching this and thinking of going against your parents for love, ask yourself this: will that love last longer than the bond you're breaking? Will that person hold your hand when the world turns cold, or will they disappear like a shadow when things get hard? I didn't believe my parents. I thought they were wrong. But they were right, and I see that now, too late. Don't make the same mistake I did. Don't trade a lifetime of love for 2 months of illusion. Because once it's gone, no amount of regret will bring it back.